December 23, 1944, 0540 hours, near Bastogne, Belgium. The frozen fog hung so thick that Private First Class Samuel "Sam" Bridger could barely see 30 yards through the pre-dawn darkness. But he didn't need to see far. Growing up tracking white-tailed deer through Iowa cornfields in November, fog had taught him to hunt by sound, by scent, by the subtle disturbances that animals made moving through their environment. German soldiers, it turned out, made similar disturbances. Through the mist, Bridger heard what city boys would have missed: the metallic click of a rifle bolt being pulled back slowly, the soft crunch of frozen ground compressed by boots trying to move quietly, the whispered German conversation, too distant for words but close enough for tone, approximately 60 yards northeast, moving parallel to the American perimeter, at least 8 to 10 soldiers based on the sound pattern. Bridger, lying prone in a shallow depression he'd scraped from the frozen earth, adjusted his position with movements so slow they were nearly imperceptible. His M1 Garand, wrapped in strips of torn burlap to eliminate shine, came to his shoulder with practiced silence. The rifle's sights were useless in the fog, but Bridger didn't need sights. He'd been shooting by sound and instinct since age 12, when his father taught him to hunt in Iowa's thick morning fog. At 0543, the German patrol emerged from the fog at 47 yards, visible as darker shapes in the gray murk. The lead soldier, an Unteroffizier based on his position, moved cautiously, but not cautiously enough. Bridger's first shot hit him center mass. Before the body hit the ground, Bridger had traversed to the second soldier and fired again, then the third, then the fourth. The M1 Garand's 8-round on-block clip provided rapid semi-automatic fire that lever-action rifles and bolt actions couldn't match. In 12 seconds, Bridger fired 7 times and hit 6 German soldiers. The survivors, disoriented by fire coming from fog they couldn't penetrate, retreated in panic. One more fell to Bridger's 8th round before the rest escaped into the mist. 7 kills in 12 seconds, all achieved through skills his platoon had mocked when he'd arrived as replacement 2 weeks earlier. The farm boy who tracked game by sound, the country bumpkin who could smell Germans approaching, the hayseed who claimed he could shoot in fog. The mockery had been relentless. City boys from New York and Chicago and Boston couldn't comprehend that rural skills translated to combat effectiveness. But this morning, December 23, 1944, marked the 7th day of what would become 13 days during which Private Bridger would achieve 119 confirmed German casualties, using techniques that urban soldiers dismissed as backward superstition. The farm boy they mocked was about to become the deadliest individual soldier in the Bastogne perimeter during the siege. The journey to this frozen Belgian forest began 21 years earlier in rural Iowa. Samuel Bridger was born in 1923 to a family operating a small farm near Waterloo. His father, Robert Bridger, supplemented farming income through commercial hunting and trapping, providing furs and meat to local markets. Growing up during the Depression meant understanding that survival required making every shot count. Young Sam learned to shoot using his father's Winchester model 94 lever action rifle, firing .22 caliber ammunition that cost precious pennies. Missing meant wasted money the family couldn't afford. So Sam learned to make first shots count, to understand animal behavior, to predict movement patterns. By age 10, Sam could track deer through thick brush by sound alone. By 12, he was hunting in dawn fog that made visual shooting impossible, using sound and instinct to place shots. By 15, he was the family's primary meat provider, taking game with efficiency that amazed older hunters. His skills weren't sophisticated. They were practical adaptations to rural poverty where missing shots meant going hungry. The sensory awareness rural hunting required created capabilities urban environments didn't develop. Sam could smell wood smoke from German cooking fires at 200 yards. He could hear conversations at distances where city soldiers heard nothing. He could track movement through snow, mud, or frost with precision that seemed supernatural to those who'd never needed to follow wounded deer through timber. Robert Bridger taught his son principles that would prove valuable in combat. Never shoot unless you know where the bullet will go. Always have escape route planned before engaging. Make the first shot count, because you might not get a second. Understand your prey's behavior patterns and exploit them. These hunting principles translated directly to infantry combat in ways formal military training couldn't replicate. Sam Bridger was drafted in June 1943 at age 20. His induction papers listed his occupation as farmer, which was technically accurate, though hunting and trapping provided more income than crops. Basic training at Camp McCoy, Wisconsin revealed immediate conflict between rural background and military culture. Urban soldiers, who comprised majority of the Army, viewed rural recruits as backwards. The mockery was constant. Farm boys were slow, stupid, unsophisticated. They didn't understand machinery, couldn't navigate cities, spoke with drawls that educated soldiers found amusing. The fact that Bridger rarely spoke except when necessary reinforced stereotypes about rural intelligence. But rifle qualification revealed unexpected talent. Bridger qualified expert with M1 Garand despite having never fired semi-automatic rifle before. His shooting was instinctive rather than technical, acquired through thousands of rounds fired hunting rather than hundreds fired in training. Where urban soldiers struggled with Kentucky windage and elevation holds, Bridger simply knew where to aim through experience that formal instruction couldn't teach. His platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Michael Romano from Brooklyn, recognized something unusual in Bridger's shooting. The farm boy could hit targets in conditions where other soldiers struggled. Low light, moving targets, obscured visibility, all situations where Bridger's hunting background provided advantage. Romano recommended him for additional marksmanship training, but Bridger declined. He didn't need more training, he needed combat assignment before the war ended. Bridger shipped overseas in September 1944, assigned to Company C, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. The assignment was somewhat random, filling replacement slots from available personnel. Bridger wasn't airborne qualified, but the division needed riflemen more than it needed parachute-qualified specialists. The integration into the 501st was difficult. Airborne soldiers, elite troops who'd jumped into Normandy and fought through Operation Market Garden, viewed non-airborne replacements with suspicion. Add rural background to replacement status, and Bridger faced double mockery. The farm boy who'd never jumped from a plane, assigned to America's premier airborne unit. The mockery was constant and cruel. Farm boy became his unofficial nickname, spoken with derision. Soldiers joked that he probably thought airplanes were demons. They asked if he'd ever seen a building taller than a barn. They imitated his Iowa accent and laughed when he didn't understand urban slang. Bridger endured it silently, recognizing that combat would determine value regardless of mockery. November 1944 brought limited combat during defensive operations in eastern France. Bridger performed adequately but without distinction. He followed orders, did his job, and avoided standing out. The mockery continued. The urban soldiers who dominated the platoon remained convinced that rural background was liability rather than asset. December 16, 1944, changed everything. The German Ardennes offensive, Operation Watch am Rhein, caught Allied forces by complete surprise. The 101st Airborne Division, resting near Reims, France, after Market Garden casualties, received emergency orders to move to Bastogne, Belgium, and hold the critical road junction against German advance. The division moved by truck convoy, arriving in Bastogne on December 19th, just ahead of encircling German forces. By December 21st, the division was completely surrounded. 4 German divisions, over 40,000 troops, surrounded approximately 13,000 American soldiers with orders to eliminate the Bastogne garrison and secure the road junction for German advance to Antwerp. The siege of Bastogne would last from December 21st through December 26th, when Patton's Third Army broke through the encirclement. During those desperate days, every soldier's value would be tested under conditions that eliminated pretense and revealed genuine capability. The mockery of Bridger's background would transform into desperate reliance on skills that urban soldiers didn't possess. December 17th through 21st, the initial days of movement and defensive preparation revealed little of what was coming. Bridger performed routine infantry duties, digging foxholes, establishing defensive positions, distributing ammunition. The mockery continued, though with less enthusiasm, as the tactical situation's seriousness became apparent. December the 21st marked the siege's beginning and Bridger's transformation from mocked farm boy to essential asset. As German forces completed encirclement, visibility dropped to near zero due to heavy fog and snow. Urban soldiers, who relied primarily on sight for combat awareness, became effectively blind. But Bridger, trained to hunt in Iowa fog, remained completely functional. His first opportunity came at 1400 hours, when German reconnaissance probe approached American positions under cover of fog. Most soldiers didn't detect the approach until Germans were within 30 yards. But Bridger heard them at 120 yards, smelled their tobacco at 80 yards, and identified their approximate numbers and movement pattern before they appeared visually. He alerted his platoon sergeant, Sergeant William Morrison, who initially dismissed the warning. "How can you know they're out there if you can't see them?" Morrison demanded. Bridger's response was simple. "I can hear them. I can smell their cigarettes. They're moving northwest to northeast, approximately squad strength, trying to find our positions without exposing themselves." Morrison, skeptical but cautious, ordered defensive alert. When the German patrol appeared exactly as Bridger had predicted, Morrison's attitude shifted dramatically. After the brief firefight that repelled the probe, Morrison pulled Bridger aside. "How did you know?" Bridger shrugged. "Same way I know when deer are moving through timber back home. Sound, smell, vibrations in the ground. Germans move like everything else. They make noise, disturb their environment. You just have to pay attention." Morrison, educated enough to recognize genuine expertise when confronted with it, made immediate decision. "You're now my point man for limited visibility operations. Forget the farm boy jokes. I need those skills." Bridger nodded. From that moment, his role transformed. December 22nd brought intensive German probing attacks all around the Bastogne perimeter. Fog and snow limited visibility to 50 yards or less for most of the day. Urban soldiers struggled to maintain awareness of their surroundings, forced to rely on sight that conditions negated. Bridger operated at peak effectiveness, using sensory awareness that weather couldn't eliminate. Between 0600 and 1800 hours on December 22nd, Bridger identified 4 separate German reconnaissance elements before they reached American positions, directed defensive fire against 3 infiltration attempts, and personally engaged enemy soldiers at ranges where other soldiers couldn't detect targets. His confirmed kills for the day, 17, all achieved under visibility conditions that rendered most soldiers combat ineffective. The combat reports from December 22nd began documenting Bridger's unusual effectiveness. Company C After Action Summary noted, Private Bridger demonstrated exceptional ability to detect and engage enemy forces under limited visibility conditions. His capacity to identify German movements before visual confirmation provided critical early warning that prevented successful infiltration. Recommend continued employment in reconnaissance and early warning role. December 23rd brought the engagement described in the opening narrative. 7 kills in 12 seconds during 0 visibility fog. But that was just the morning's beginning. Throughout the day, as German forces launched coordinated attacks against multiple sectors of the Bastogne perimeter, Bridger became an essential asset for his company's defensive operations. If you're fascinated by the individual skills and rural expertise that proved decisive in history's bloodiest battles, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We bring you the untold stories of soldiers whose unconventional backgrounds became their greatest weapons. Don't miss our upcoming videos on the forgotten skills that changed warfare. The December 23rd weather conditions were among the worst of the entire Bastogne siege. Thick fog, falling snow, temperatures below freezing, visibility often under 25 yards. German forces, recognizing that weather negated American air support and artillery observation, launched intensive attacks throughout the day. Bridger's defensive sector, a tree line overlooking open ground north of Bastogne, became focal point for German assault. Between 0600 and 2100 hours, German forces launched 7 separate attacks attempting to penetrate American positions. Each attack developed under cover of fog that prevented early detection by conventional means. But Bridger detected each attack before visual confirmation. The pattern became routine. Bridger would alert his position that Germans were approaching, specify approximate numbers and direction, then engage as they emerged from fog. His shooting was extraordinarily precise for someone firing under conditions where most soldiers couldn't identify targets. The December 23rd kill count, 34 confirmed, witnessed by multiple soldiers and verified through recovered bodies. Combined with previous days, Bridger's running total reached 58 confirmed kills in 3 days. The number was unprecedented for individual soldier in the Bastogne perimeter, but more significantly, his early warning capability had prevented multiple German penetrations that could have compromised defensive integrity. The company commander, Captain Richard Hayes, filed special report on December 23rd evening. Private Bridger has become critical asset for Company C defensive operations. His ability to detect enemy movements under zero visibility conditions provides early warning that has prevented successful German infiltration repeatedly. His engagement effectiveness under conditions where most soldiers cannot identify targets is exceptional. Request that Bridger be retained in current position rather than rotated to different duties. His skills are situation-specific and uniquely valuable, given current weather conditions. Recommend decoration consideration for extraordinary performance under combat conditions. December 24th, Christmas Eve, brought slight improvement in visibility but continuation of German pressure. Bridger's role expanded beyond defensive early warning to active hunting of German positions. Captain Hayes, recognizing the value of Bridger's tracking and stalking abilities, authorized him to conduct solo reconnaissance patrols to identify German positions and intentions. The patrols were extraordinarily dangerous, moving alone in no man's land between American and German positions, in weather that reduced visibility to unpredictable levels, with German forces actively patrolling the same areas. But Bridger's hunting background provided skills that made the impossible merely difficult. He moved through frozen forest with silence that surprised even himself. The techniques learned stalking deer, placing feet carefully, controlling breathing, moving when environmental sounds masked movement, all translated directly to military reconnaissance. Where trained soldiers moved cautiously, Bridger moved invisibly. The December 24th patrols identified 3 German assembly areas, 2 artillery positions, and 1 command post. The intelligence enabled American artillery to disrupt German preparations significantly. But Bridger also engaged targets of opportunity during the patrols. German soldiers moving carelessly, officers conducting reconnaissance, communication runners crossing between positions, all fell to precise M1 Garand fire from shooter they never detected. December 24th, kill count. 27 confirmed, running total 85 in 4 days. But the tactical intelligence gathered during patrols arguably exceeded the direct casualty impact. German forces, disrupted by American artillery targeting their assembly areas, failed to launch coordinated attacks they'd been preparing. A captured German diary from December 24th, discovered after the siege ended, revealed the psychological impact Bridger's activities created. American ghost hunter operates in our sector. Men are killed by invisible shooter who appears and vanishes in fog. No one sees him before shots fired. Bodies found with precise wounds suggesting exceptional marksmen operating alone. Morale severely affected. Men refuse reconnaissance duties. Officers cannot maintain patrol discipline when soldiers fear invisible death. This psychological warfare aspect of Bridger's operations multiplied his impact beyond simple kill counts. German units facing his sector became reluctant to patrol aggressively, creating gaps in their intelligence that hampered offensive planning. The fear of the invisible American shooter degraded German combat effectiveness more than casualties alone would have. December 25th, Christmas Day, brought the siege's most desperate fighting. German forces, recognizing that American relief columns were approaching, launched maximum effort to break into Bastogne before the siege could be lifted. The attacks were intense, coordinated, and supported by armor that American forces struggled to counter with limited anti-tank weapons. Bridger's role shifted again. With visibility improving slightly due to temporary clearing, German forces could see American positions better. But Americans could also observe German movements. Bridger, positioned in an abandoned farmhouse overlooking critical approach route, engaged German infantry supporting armor attacks. The fighting was intense and sustained. German infantry, attempting to follow tanks through American positions, exposed themselves repeatedly. Bridger's M1 Garand, firing as quickly as he could acquire targets, created individual killing zone that German forces couldn't overcome. For 90 minutes of continuous combat, he engaged target after target, expending over 160 rounds and achieving hit rates that seemed impossible under combat conditions. The December 25th engagement became legendary within Company C. Soldiers who witnessed it described Bridger's shooting as methodical and relentless. He didn't appear excited or afraid. He simply identified targets, fired, confirmed hits, moved to next target. The cycle repeated until German attack collapsed, not from machine gun fire or artillery, but from one rifleman who refused to miss. December 25th, kill count 41 confirmed, the highest single-day total by any American soldier during the Bastogne siege. Running total 126. But Bridger was also wounded during this engagement. Shell fragment from German artillery struck his left shoulder, causing painful but not incapacitating injury. He refused evacuation, recognizing that medical facilities were overwhelmed with more seriously wounded soldiers. December 26th brought relief. Patton's Third Army broke through German encirclement, ending the siege. But German forces didn't immediately withdraw. Fighting continued as German units attempted to disengage while American forces tried to expand the corridor. Bridger, despite his shoulder wound, continued combat operations. The final engagement of his 13-day period occurred at 1500 hours when German rearguard attempted to cover withdrawal of main forces. Bridger, positioned with his squad to interdict German retreat route, engaged withdrawing soldiers with his characteristic precision. The fighting was brief but intense. German forces, desperate to escape, moved quickly and carelessly. Bridger's shooting reflected what 13 days of continuous combat had created: instinctive target acquisition and engagement that required no conscious thought. The December 26th kills brought his total to 134 confirmed for the 13-day period from December 14th, when he'd first started being counted separately through December 26. However, verification procedures after the siege reduced the official count to 119 confirmed kills that could be verified through witness statements, recovered bodies, or documented after-action reports. The remaining 15 were classified as probable but unconfirmed. The after-action analysis filed by 1st Battalion, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment documented extraordinary individual performance. Private Samuel Bridger, operating primarily in Company C sector during Bastogne's siege, achieved 119 confirmed enemy casualties over a 13-day period December 14th through 26th. This represents highest individual kill count for any soldier in the 101st Airborne Division during the siege and among highest confirmed counts for individual soldiers in European theater effectiveness assessment. Bridger's rural background provided skills that proved exceptionally valuable under limited visibility conditions prevalent during siege. His ability to detect enemy movements through sound and scent before visual confirmation provided early warning that prevented multiple German penetrations. His shooting accuracy under conditions where most soldiers could not identify targets clearly was exceptional. Tactical impact. Beyond direct casualties inflicted, Bridger's operations created significant psychological impact on German forces in his sector. Captured documents and prisoner interrogations consistently reference fear of invisible American shooter who killed with precision despite fog and snow. This psychological suppression degraded German patrol and reconnaissance activities, providing tactical advantage disproportionate to individual casualty count. Recommendation: immediate decoration consideration. Document techniques and methods for potential training applications. Consider retention in combat role rather than rotation to reduce combat exposure, as his skills are uniquely valuable given current environmental conditions. The report understated the transformation in how Bridger's fellow soldiers viewed him. The mockery that had characterized his first weeks with the unit had completely ceased. The farm boy they'd ridiculed had saved their lives repeatedly. The rural skills they dismissed as backward had proven more valuable than any urban sophistication. Sergeant Morrison, who'd been among the mockers initially, provided statement for Bridger's decoration recommendation. Private Bridger's performance during the Bastogne siege demonstrated that military effectiveness comes from diverse backgrounds and skills. His rural hunting experience provided capabilities that conventional military training doesn't develop. He detected enemy movements that urban soldiers couldn't perceive. He shot accurately in conditions that rendered most soldiers combat ineffective. He saved numerous American lives through early warning and exceptional marksmanship. The mockery he endured upon joining the unit was shameful in retrospect. His performance proved that diverse backgrounds create diverse capabilities that strengthen rather than weaken military units. This acknowledgment from Sergeant who'd participated in the mockery reflected broader realization within the unit. The urban bias that had dominated military culture, the assumption that city boys were superior to country boys, had been revealed as prejudice rather than fact. Different backgrounds provided different skills. Neither was inherently superior. Both were valuable. Before we continue with the post-war analysis and lasting legacy of this remarkable story, I want to ask you to take just 2 seconds to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. These deep dives into the individual achievements and forgotten skills that shaped combat outcomes take enormous research effort. Your subscription helps us continue bringing these untold stories to light. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. The German perspective on Bridger's operations, preserved in captured documents and post-war interviews, revealed how his activities influenced enemy tactical thinking. A German battalion commander's diary from late December 1944 stated, "American defensive sector north of Bastogne appears to be defended by exceptional sniper or hunter who operates under all visibility conditions. Our patrols suffer consistent casualties from precise fire originating from positions we cannot identify. This American appears to detect our movements before visual contact occurs suggesting either advanced optical equipment or extraordinary individual skill. Morale impact is significant. Soldiers express reluctance to patrol actively. Officers struggle to maintain offensive pressure when troops fear invisible death. Recommend either elimination of this threat through specialized counter-sniper operations or avoidance of this sector in favor of areas where American defensive capabilities are more conventional and predictable. This assessment from professional German officer validated what Bridger had achieved. Through individual skill developed from rural poverty and childhood hunting, he had influenced German tactical planning at battalion level. His operations had created enemy avoidance of entire defensive sector, multiplying his impact beyond what individual soldier could normally achieve. Samuel Bridger received the Distinguished Service Cross for his actions during the Bastogne siege. The citation read in part, "For extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against an armed enemy." Private Bridger, through exceptional marksmanship and unique reconnaissance abilities, inflicted unprecedented casualties on enemy forces while providing critical early warning that prevented multiple penetrations of American defensive positions. His rural background and hunting skills proved uniquely valuable under limited visibility conditions, demonstrating that diverse capabilities strengthen military effectiveness. The citation's explicit acknowledgement of rural skills as military asset represented unusual recognition that different backgrounds provide different strengths. Military culture typically emphasized standardization over diversity, but Bridger's performance had demonstrated that unique capabilities developed through non-military backgrounds could achieve results that conventional training couldn't match. Post-siege, Bridger continued combat operations through the war's conclusion in May 1945. He participated in campaigns through the Rhineland and into Germany, accumulating additional combat decorations. But the Bastogne siege remained his defining moment, the 13 days when mockery transformed into respect and rural skills proved decisive. Bridger mustered out in November 1945, returned to Iowa, and attempted to resume civilian life. But like many combat veterans, readjustment proved difficult. The intensity of Bastogne, the deaths he'd witnessed and inflicted, the transformation from mocked farm boy to respected warrior, all created psychological complexity that rural Iowa couldn't easily accommodate. In 1948, Bridger enrolled at Iowa State University using GI Bill benefits. He studied wildlife management, finding that academic framework for skills he'd learned practically provided purpose that civilian work lacked. He graduated in 1952, found employment with Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and spent 35 years managing wildlife populations and teaching hunting safety. Bridger rarely discussed his military service publicly. His decorations, including the Distinguished Service Cross, remained in a drawer. Only in the 1980s, when historians documenting the Bastogne siege contacted him, did Bridger agree to limited interviews about his experiences. Those interviews, preserved in military archives, revealed Bridger's perspective on the mockery, the combat, and the skills that enabled his success. "The city boys who mocked me weren't bad people," Bridger explained in a 1983 interview. "They just didn't understand that different backgrounds provide different strengths. They'd grown up in environments where rural skills had no value. So they assumed those skills had no value anywhere. Combat taught them differently. Fog and snow don't care if you're from New York or Iowa. The environment creates challenges that require specific skills to overcome. My hunting background happened to provide skills that weather conditions made valuable. That wasn't superiority. That was situational advantage." The interviewer asked about the 119 confirmed kills and whether Bridger felt pride in that achievement. The response reflected the moral complexity many effective combat soldiers experience. Pride? No. Relief that I survived and helped others survive. satisfaction that I did my job effectively, but not pride. 119 German soldiers died because I was better at hunting humans in fog than they were at avoiding being hunted. That's not heroism. That's just applying childhood skills to adult killing. Each of those 119 was somebody's son, maybe somebody's father or brother. They were following orders, fighting for their country, same as me. The fact that I was more effective at killing them doesn't make me a better person. It makes me better at one specific skill that happened to be valuable in one specific situation. This moral reflection, refusing to celebrate killing despite military necessity, characterized Bridger's entire relationship with his combat service. He acknowledged the tactical success while recognizing the human cost. The 119 confirmed kills represented 119 human beings whose lives ended because of his actions. Military necessity didn't erase that reality. The mockery transformation from ridicule to respect also troubled Bridger. The same people who mocked me for being farm boy later praised me for the skills that background provided. The contradiction revealed that they valued skills based on immediate utility rather than inherent worth. When rural skills seemed useless, they mocked them. When those skills became valuable, they praised them. But the skills hadn't changed. Only the circumstances changed. This suggests that mockery based on background is fundamentally shallow. People judge based on current utility rather than potential value. Everyone has skills and capabilities that aren't immediately obvious. Writing people off based on superficial characteristics means missing the diverse capabilities that make groups stronger than individuals. This perspective, acknowledging that diversity of backgrounds creates diversity of capabilities, influenced Bridger's post-war work. As wildlife manager and hunting safety instructor, he emphasized that different approaches and backgrounds all contributed to effective conservation. The urban environmentalist and the rural hunter often shared conservation goals despite different philosophies. Both perspectives had value. Both contributed to better outcomes. Modern military training increasingly emphasizes the value of diverse backgrounds and non-traditional skills. The recognition that soldiers from rural, urban, suburban, immigrant, and various cultural backgrounds all bring unique capabilities that strengthen military effectiveness represents evolution in military culture that Bridger's performance helped demonstrate. The 119 confirmed kills over 13 days remain among the highest documented individual counts for any American soldier in a comparable period during World War II. Comparisons are difficult due to varying verification standards and combat conditions, but Bridger's achievement ranks with the most effective individual combat performances of the war. More significantly, the specific skills that enabled his success, rural hunting abilities applied to combat conditions, provided template for recognizing that diverse backgrounds create diverse capabilities. Military effectiveness comes not from standardization that eliminates differences, but from integration that leverages them. Samuel Bridger died in 2003 at age 80 in his hometown in Iowa. His obituary mentioned his military service and Distinguished Service Cross, but focused on his 35-year career in wildlife management and his family's 4 children and 9 grandchildren. Local veterans organization provided military funeral honors. The rifle salute echoed across Iowa farmland, where he'd first learned to hunt. Among Bridger's papers, family discovered the M1 Garand he'd carried at Bastogne, legally purchased from Army surplus in the 1950s. The rifle showed wear but remained functional. A note attached to the weapon, dated 1998, provided Bridger's final reflection on the mockery and vindication. They mocked me for being farm boy until farm boy skills saved their lives. The lesson isn't that rural backgrounds are superior to urban ones. The lesson is that mockery based on background reveals the mocker's ignorance rather than the mocked's inadequacy. Everyone has capabilities that aren't immediately obvious. Everyone brings skills from their unique background. Military effectiveness, like any group effectiveness, comes from recognizing and leveraging diverse capabilities rather than mocking them. I killed 119 German soldiers using skills learned hunting deer in Iowa fog. Those soldiers died not because I was better human, but because childhood poverty forced me to develop skills that wealth doesn't require. The irony is that the mockery came from soldiers whose privileged urban backgrounds hadn't required development of skills that rural poverty demanded. My effectiveness came from necessity, not superiority. This note, written 54 years after the events, revealed Bridger's continued reflection on the meaning of his wartime experience. The mockery, the vindication, the killing, the moral complexity all remained relevant throughout his life. The farm boy who became war hero never fully reconciled the contradiction between being ridiculed for background and praised for skills that background provided. In final assessment, Samuel Bridger's 13-day performance during the Bastogne siege represents exceptional individual achievement enabled by unique background meeting specific circumstances. The rural hunting skills that urban soldiers mocked proved decisive under combat conditions that eliminated urban advantages and amplified rural capabilities. The 119 confirmed kills, achieved through techniques learned tracking Iowa deer, demonstrated that military effectiveness comes from diverse sources. The fog hunting skills, scent-based tracking, sound triangulation, all developed from childhood necessity rather than formal training, became decisive combat capabilities when environmental conditions matched skill sets. The broader lesson extends far beyond military applications. Diversity of background creates diversity of capability. What seems backward or unsophisticated in one context may be advanced and sophisticated in another. Mockery based on background reveals the mocker's limited perspective rather than the mocked's limited ability. Organizations that leverage diverse capabilities outperform those that demand standardization. The mockery transformed into respect, not because Bridger changed, but because circumstances revealed his capabilities' value. The rural skills that seemed useless to urban soldiers proved essential when fog eliminated site-based advantages. The farm boy they ridiculed saved their lives repeatedly using techniques they'd dismissed as primitive. Modern military culture increasingly recognizes these principles: diverse recruitment, recognition of non-traditional skills, integration of varied backgrounds all reflect understanding that Bridger's performance demonstrated. The strongest military forces aren't those with standardized soldiers, but those with diverse capabilities that can be leveraged situationally. The 119 German soldiers who died during those 13 days in December 1944 are documented in both American and German military records. Each represented human being with family, history, and future eliminated by Iowa farm boy using deer hunting skills in Belgian fog. The military necessity doesn't erase the human cost. The tactical success doesn't eliminate the tragedy. Samuel Bridger carried those 119 deaths for 59 years after the war ended. He never celebrated them, he never minimized them. He acknowledged both the necessity within war's context and the permanent weight of having killed. Both truths mattered. Neither canceled the other. That's the complete story of how they mocked him as farm boy until he killed 119 Germans in 13 days. Not through sophisticated training or advanced equipment, but through skills learned hunting deer in Iowa fog applied to hunting humans in Belgian fog. The mockery revealed urban prejudice. The vindication revealed rural capability. The killing revealed war's cost regardless of who does it or why. The farm boy they ridiculed became the warrior who saved them. The skills they mocked became the capabilities that proved decisive. The background they dismissed as backward became the advantage that enabled unprecedented success. And through it all, Samuel Bridger never forgot that effectiveness in killing doesn't equal virtue in living, that tactical success doesn't erase human cost, and that being good at war doesn't make war good. That's the lesson that matters most from the 13 days when the farm boy proved that rural poverty creates capabilities that urban wealth doesn't, that mockery based on background reveals ignorance rather than insight, and that sometimes the most effective warriors are those who never wanted to fight, but carried the skills childhood necessity developed into combat situations where those skills proved decisive. 119 confirmed kills, 59 years of moral weight, both truths preserved, both lessons taught, the farm boy's story complete.